David Owoma joins us next. He's a tax revenue generation consultant. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, actually, it's people like you that people want to run away from. You're the one advising them to come collect those taxes.
It's people like him that government would love.
So you see, they love to hate him. Thank you for coming on this morning. But then looking at government's targets to achieve this tax, but let's start with some of those concerns that people raise, which they think the authorities should also tackle while they, come to collect these taxes. First and foremost, this one is a general one, multiple taxation. You think anything has been done about it?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think, in my own opinion, that has not been addressed, and is a major constraint for even the tax authority generating a lot of revenue. Basically, I can classify why tax compliance is generally low in Nigeria into three broad headings. The first one is accountability and transparency. And what do we mean by that? You know, they say perception is reality. People will always ask you, what have they done with what they've collected? I'm not trying to justify that statement, but that goes a long way. And as a consultant that consults for both private sectors and the government, this is a major issue that I think the government must address.
Do you think that perception is beginning to improve? I'm sure state governments are aware, federal government must be aware of this perception of theirs. Do you think they're doing something about it?
Well, like I said, I don't think enough has been done about it, and I can give you examples about that. Now, you see, in an organized estate where people provide for themselves, electricity, clean, and all that, they don't chase people to pay their dues because they can see what those monies are being used for. But when you look at the general society, there is that belief that you cannot actually match what is being generated to what is the facilities you are seeing on ground. So it's a problem. Now, talking about transparency itself. Now, there's this notion too that if a government agency gets money from you, it's difficult to get it back. That is, if the government gets money from you in error, it's difficult to get it back. But this is not so in other climes. You discover that places like UK, the tax refund system is simple. So I won't mind to pay the tax as when due, whether it is correct or not, because I know when it's time to reconcile and is in my favor, I don't need to be audited or chase anybody. The refund will come back to me. But that is not true. That is not so in Nigeria. So that alone is also causing some constraint for people to pay their taxes as at when due, because it is believed that once the money gets to government coffers, you don't get it back. And there's also this perception that says that, especially for the employees, that even if I pay the whole of my salary to government, when they come for audit, they will still say I'm still what? Owing.
Why?
So that is a perception
But that's what that happens in some cases.
Yes. So that is a perception they must address. And in few occasions that I've had opportunity to address some of these executive chairmen and head of tax agency, I've told them, you need to learn to be transparent in these tax collection processes. Because if I don't trust you, then you don't expect me to pay or to dance to your tune all the time.
The way that happens is that when, from some that we've heard, when you're transparent to them, they go for your jugular. They then overtax you and say, nope, you must pay this, almost everything.
Yeah, so that is why you see that we are now having issues of what? Low tax compliance, because that perception is there. Whether if I give them, whether I open my books to them or not, they are going to come after me. But so the best thing for me is to withhold as much as possible. So let them come chasing me.
Where is this perception most rampant? Because some people will say that the local people pay their taxes. If you ask the artisans, the market women, those who walk around, they're on a constant daily basis being taxed. Where is this perception most common?
Well, I would say this is within the formal sector and usually the paid employment. That is where you have this. And that is where you have most state government generating their own chunk of revenue. So this perception is to be addressed mostly by the state government.
And speaking about state governments, what do you do when you receive your tax card and you check? You're supposed to have details of your records, everything there, but when you check it, you don't find anything there.
Well, that is even if you have tax card.
Yes.
Yeah. So if the only two states that I can mention or that I know that they have tax card is Lagos and Delta State. And they are still been perfecting the technology as far as I'm concerned, because you are supposed to log in independently and get your tax details. That is your history.
But then, if it's not there, what do you do?
No, for the past 3 years at least, for
It's
Lagos,
supposed to be there.
it's supposed to be there. For the past 3 years, it's supposed to be there.
The tax policy of government, we understand, yes, it's there, but then even those who pay, not many are aware of that tax policy, and isn't it something that they need to actually just bring up and see how they can modify it?
Yeah, well, I said 3 ways I can categorize the issue why tax compliance is low in Nigeria. The first one, accountability and transparency. The second one is the tax laws and the policies themselves. Now, today, the government cannot increase VAT. Why? Because the framework is not right. In other climes, it's not everybody that should be on the VAT net.
All this while, it's not been right.
It's not right.
Well, that's not what they say. What they say is that there are a lot of people who are not remitting. Some people are not even paying at all. So they need to broaden the collection net rather than increase what it is that those who are already paying are paying.
Now, what we fail to realize in this part of the world is that taxation is not just about collection. It's also how you manage the economy to stimulate economic growth. So I give you an example using the UK, where the laws were copied from. Nigeria introduced VAT 1st of January 1994, and since then, the way it was copied, that is how it is still being practiced. But the UK, where we copied it from, it has evolved. Now, how do you expect someone in the high street, so let's say people trading in the shopping malls, to compete with someone trading at the street corner? Now, in the UK, that has been observed and examined. If you put everybody in that regime, what will happen is that the person at the corner street will not be able to compete with the person at the high street, because they'll be charging the same price. And because the person at the high street also have this large-scale economy, his prices will be lower. So that means the business of the person at the corner street will be dying. So what the appropriate thing to do is to say that you must operate at a certain level, so there should be a turnover threshold. So if your business is at that turnover threshold, then it is believed that you should be able to operate in that VAT circle.
Isn't that for economies where the VAT is so high? For instance, in the UK, it's about 20% VAT. In Nigeria, it's still about 5%.
Now,
it's still at the basic level.
Yeah, it's because we've not been able to address this structure. That's why we can't increase our VAT. Because if you increase the VAT tomorrow, the labor union will be on the streets, the manufacturer association will grumble. But if you can separate, if you can demarcate this section of individuals, those who are operating at a certain level, you'll be on the VAT.
But that's what you mean by the framework.
Yes, the framework.
Okay, but what do you make of the collection? Because they also say that as it is right now, they're still collecting very minimum amounts.
Yeah, the reason for that is what I've explained. The first reason I gave for low tax compliance, accountability, and transparency. So there is no mutual trust between government and the taxpayer. So that is bound to happen.